Guys, who's next, right? Who's the next guy that the Texans should interview? Let me throw a name out there. Cody, you and I discussed this guy on Friday, and I think his stock only goes up based on what we saw yesterday. That's former Texan, current 49ers defensive coordinator, DeMeco Ryans. This guy, to me, has all the qualities you look for in a head coach. He doesn't come from the Patriot tree. He comes from the Shanahan tree. Before that, the Kubiak tree, which has been known to produce way more successful head coaches than anything from the Belichick tree. It would excite the fan base. He seems like a guy that could handle the additional responsibilities that come with being a head coach. His defense went out there yesterday, and I thought they had a great game plan to contain a high-powered Cowboy offense.
Sure.
DeMeco Ryans is the guy I think the Texans should interview.
I love the idea of interviewing DeMeco Ryans. My comment about that would be, it would be very strange to hire to interview DeMeco Ryans and then hire someone like Jerod Mayo, like we've talked about before, because DeMeco is going to have a better resume just from looking on the outside looking in. He's coming off of a year where he coordinated a defense, finished third in total yards allowed. And if DeMeco Ryans comes in here and he's not a fit, but Jerod Mayo is, then perhaps you open yourself to criticism if you're the Texans that you didn't want coaching experience. You wanted a certain guy.
Yep.
You wanted a certain style of guy.
Agreed, 100%. I think a lot of people are going to be ticked off if Jerod Mayo is the guy. I think more people would be ticked off if you interviewed way more qualified defensive people to be this team's next head coach, and then you ended up with Jerod Mayo, because that's going to make it look like you only care about the Patriots thing. Like, DeMeco Ryans has been a successful defensive coordinator in this league for a couple of years. He's got more coaching accolades under his belt. If you bring in a Leslie Frazier, like, there's a guy who's got way more defensive coordinator and coaching experience. He's got more under his belt as well. Like, if you bring in all of these defensive guys and then you end up hiring the least experienced defensive guy who, like David Culley, has never been a coordinator at any level, I think you're going to frustrate a lot of this fan base.
You're also going to open yourself up for criticism, true or not, that you spit in the face of a guy that was a Texans football legend. Like, it's one of the best players to ever play for this organization. Mm-hmm. And you're going to open yourself up for that level of criticism. So, look, if you interview DeMeco Ryans, I'd be shocked if he's in the room with those guys and he doesn't absolutely knock it out of the park. The thing is I feel like DeMeco Ryans maybe is in the situation where he's like, hey, I appreciate the ask, but I'm not worrying about that until the 49ers run is over. So if you're willing to kind of wait and take that time, then certainly he's a guy that fits that bill. Heck, even you bring up the Mayo versus other defensive candidates. Flores has got a better resume than Mayo. This Gannon guy, who's the DC for the Eagles, he's got a better resume than Mayo. DeMeco certainly has a better resume than Mayo. Like, almost everybody that they've interviewed that has any sort of defensive background's got in fact, everybody that we've talked about that has a defensive background has a better resume than Jerod Mayo. Now, they don't have the playing experience, but I'm not Patriots.com. I don't count that for his coaching experience. Okay? But yeah, if they interview DeMeco Ryans, there's going to be a groundswell amongst Texans fans that they hope that's the guy.
I still can't believe that that's a thing, that on the Patriots website, on their coaches page, they list how much experience every single one of their coaches have, and they have 11 years listed next to Jerod Mayo. Mm-hmm. Like, they really put his playing years in there as well. It's ridiculous. I've never seen that before.
Maybe they just forgot. They're like, you know what? We don't really need to update the website. His numbers on there as a player are still active. Let's just combine it and save us the time.
There's some guy that set the website up in the back that's like, oh, no, the script's fine. It'll just autofill. And then it autofilled like every additional year. It's like, hey, nerd, it says 11. It should only say 3. Like, leave it.
That's the Patriot way, I guess.
Nobody will catch it.
Once a Patriot, always a Patriot.
Sure.
So as long as you're within those walls, you're part of us.
Jack Easterby's like, that's fine. I told people I was in charge of personnel in Jacksonville, and they believed me.
Patriot Way, by the way, really went well over the weekend.
Oh, man.
Patriot Way, the most overrated term in all of sports. The Patriot Way is 2 guys, Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. And Bill Belichick is not exactly Bill Belichick without having the greatest quarterback of all time.
Beyond DeMeco Ryans, are there a couple of names that you want to see the Texans talk to? Is there a guy that you would very much like to hear show up as a name that they've either requested? Look, you can request guys and they can say thanks, no thanks, which is something that Matt Eberflus did a year ago and then eventually decided to interview for the Texans job. You guys have some more names? I have a handful of more names. You have some names?
Yeah, the name I wanted to say, going off my point about the Patriot Way being a farce, is Brian Daboll, who actually has connections to Caserio and New England, but he has now gone out there, won at Alabama, then he goes to Buffalo, and look at the job he's done with Josh Allen. For those who don't know, Daboll is the Bills' offensive coordinator. That's a guy that has a multitude of different kinds of experience at the college and pro level with different organizations. I mean, this guy was a quarterback coach with the Jets back in 2008 when Brett Favre was the quarterback there. This guy's been all around the NFL. He's got plenty of experience. I would love to see the Texans hire that guy and see if he could develop Davis Mills, like what he's done with Josh Allen, or if Davis Mills is not the long-term answer, when you do draft that quarterback high in the first round, Brian Daboll would be the perfect coach to maximize that player's potential.
I wouldn't hate that hire at all, and I don't think this is us falling victim to recency bias, right? I mean, we all saw the perfect game that Brian Daboll, Josh Allen, and the Bills pitched on Saturday night against the Patriots. I mean, to do that against a high school defense would have been impressive. To do that against a Bill Belichick defense makes that otherworldly good. So, yeah, Daboll would definitely be in the mix. I feel like he's going to get a crack at a better job. I feel like he will be hired this cycle, and I think he's going to maybe not have his pick of the litter, but I think a better situation will come calling for him. But, yeah, if I'm the Texans, I'm absolutely reaching out to him.
Daboll has some interesting rumors associated with him from his time both in New England as well as his time at Alabama. He apparently was quite defiant in his initial Patriots stint to the point where everyone was like, what the hell is this guy doing when they were coaching the Pro Bowl, I suppose? And as soon as they were done with their Pro Bowl commitments, he was, boom, the Jets quarterback's coach, and the Patriots, I guess, didn't really love that. And they bounced around a little bit. He's got a ton of coordinator experience prior to his Buffalo days, obviously in addition to his Buffalo days. But look, he made right with the Patriots, came back, coached tight ends for them, was a one and done with Saban before he's back in the NFL. So Daboll's kind of a unique guy, it feels like.
Yep.
He's not going to fit into the sort of that, box that it feels like Patriots guys have fit into before. He's a little bit rough around the edges, more so than some of these other guys. Whereas, like, I didn't believe Matt Patricia. Like, I believe Daboll's got a little, bleep you to him. I didn't believe that from Matt Patricia. So I would love to see Brian Daboll get in the situation. Daboll was connected to the Texans a ton last year because they all share the same agent, Nick Caserio, Brian Daboll, and Jack Easterby. They also have the same representation. But I guess he was not super keen on jumping last year. BK, he may be putting in the call for the right opportunity for himself, kind of what you said.
Yeah, 8 openings this year, so maybe there's something that Daboll likes. Maybe he's waiting for something, but look, if I'm the Texans, Jake, I agree with you 100%. I'm absolutely reaching out and trying to get an interview with Daboll. One more sort of positive for him. He was the wide receivers coach in New England from 2002 to 2006. Deion Branch won Super Bowl MVP as a wide receiver during one of those years. Now, look, Deion Branch was a good player beforehand, but Daboll was a part of some really, really good teams. He won 3 Super Bowls in New England during his first stint there as well. And it's not like he's just been a Patriots guy. He's been around the league and had a lot of different experiences, like you said, Jake. So I think there's a lot to like on the resume for Brian Daboll.
Nick Caserio replaced Brian Daboll as the wide receivers coach. How about that?
And when then 2007, the Pats had the best offense in NFL history with Randy Moss and Tom Brady.
Put them together.
Daboll didn't quite get to coach the same level of talent over the course of his time that Nick Caserio did that year.
Instead, Daboll went to the Jets. Chad Pennington got hurt in 2007, and Kellen Clemens, the former second-round pick, remember that guy? That was the guy that Daboll got to coach up in New York that year.
Couple more names. Peter Schrager said they're going to talk to Josh McCown again.
I mean, they did last year. McCown would make sense if he was the QB coach, if he was a high-level assistant on the staff, because he's been a player coach basically everywhere he's been. You can't hire him to be your head coach with 0 experience, though. David Culley's more qualified to be a head coach than Josh McCown is.
I want them, if they're going to cast a wide net, and maybe this guy would say no to the opportunity because he's certainly been asked about better ones, but talk to Doug Peterson. The guy won a freaking Super Bowl.
Yeah, like backup quarterback.
Like if you're very much going by BK's standard of like it won't hurt to talk to anybody, like talk to Doug Peterson. Like see what pick his brain. Like maybe he rolls in there and impresses the hell out of everybody, and you want to try to get him in the conversation. Doug Peterson be at the top. I mean, I would have interviewed him first just to at least pick the brain of a Super Bowl winning coach.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a tweet over the next couple of days. The Texans have reached out to former Eagles head coach Doug Peterson for an interview. He has declined.
Yeah, he certainly could. He certainly could do that. But more interviews you take, the higher that price goes in Jacksonville, which I feel like that's where Peterson ultimately fits best.
Make him say no. No harm in reaching out.
Sure.
Make the guy say no. That's how I would look at it if I'm the Texans. 713-780-3776. 3776 713 780. ESPN's the number. You can tweet us your thoughts. Who do you want to see the Texans interview? Who do you want them to hire? At Jake Asman, at Brad Kellner, at Cody_Stoots is where you could tweet us your thoughts.